Stop hunting. Start finding. Choose the AT&T Real Yellow Pages with complete ads and up-to-date local listings to find just what you need.
Travel to Spain or Orlando Avenue. The finest restaurant featuring cuisine from Spain is open for business, lunch, and pleasure. El Bodegón, our very own 4-star restaurant, is open for business, lunch, and dinner. This is a true gem when it comes to real Spanish cuisine, featuring dishes like paella. El Bodegón also has a great wine selection. Enjoy a 4-star cuisine from Spain today for lunch or dinner at El Bodegón.
My universe is everything I imagine. I want to be a graphic designer. How can I get there? The Academy. It fits my busy lifestyle, and I can learn firsthand from instructors who've been there and know what it takes. Hey, my destiny is a career doing what I love, my way. My choice, my school. The International Academy of Design and Technology.
You imagine? We can get you there. Call 1-800-932-2900. 1-800-932-2900.
Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you on Bright House Cable, Channel 49, every Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. And we want to thank the Academy for Design and Technology, who actually tapes this show as part of an internship program every week. I'm here with Nicole. In a minute, we'll be bringing back Tim Adams, who is a candidate for Orange County Mayor, but Hi, Nicole. How are you?
Good, Danny. How are you doing?
Good, good. You have a question for me?
Yes, I do. Last week we talked about the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce, and I know you have a huge interest in them, and I was wondering why.
Well, you know, I'm Puerto Rican. I'm a Puerto Rican businessman. Even though I run a nonprofit, I do have some small side ventures that are business, and a chamber's function is to business. I was the original founder of the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce in Central Florida.
Really?
And I was president for 2 years. We set it up so that the presidency would change every 2 years. And the reason why we did that was to give the chamber a fresh viewpoint every 2 years. Now, we had a board of 12 people at that time, and we had a membership that exceeded 200 businesses. Mm-hmm. After I was president, and I stepped down because according to the bylaws, you could only be president the way it was originally founded, the way the board founded it, was you can only be president for a period of 2 years. Then Raul Ramos, unrelated to me, an insurance businessman, Central Florida, was voted to be president. Then after he was president for 2 years, Manuel Toro, who owned the local Spanish newspaper, was president. When Manuel Toro died, somehow Emilio Perez took over the chamber. And since then, the chamber's behavior has been in question. There seems to be no elections. There seems to be controlled membership where you can't just call them up and ask them to become a member. I have certainly tried to get in touch with the chamber in order to become a member of the chamber, and nobody's ever returned my phone calls. I've requested applications. I've never gotten an application for it.
Maybe they know who you are.
Well, of course they know who I am. But my interest is that the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce was set up to be a chamber for the Puerto Rican community.
Right.
If I wanted to keep the chamber, I would have stayed there after 2 years, but a chamber should be for the use of the community and the membership of the community. And it should have open books, it should have open membership, and it should have open voting.
It's not open membership?
Well, I've tried, I can't get in, you know, and I know people who have tried to become a member and they can't become a member of the Puerto Rican Chamber. There's no transparency there. And my opinion is that it's being used for the personal business money and development of one person. And that's not what a Puerto Rican chamber should be. A Puerto Rican chamber is an instrument of the local small business community. And it's gotten to the point that they're selling political favoritism, you know, using the chamber for politics. And they shouldn't be using a chamber for politics. It should be used for business development. So because I was the original founder of the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce of Central Florida, it really bothers me personally that 3 presidents who were top business people locally put years of effort into the chamber to make it something that belonged to all the small business people, where any small business person can participate and run for president. Anybody could run for president, but that's not the case now. Now the chamber is being used by only one person for the economic promotion of one person. I would like to see the chamber, the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce, go back to where it was originally designed in the bylaws of the chamber, which who knows what the bylaws are now.
Right.
You know, I would like to see it become a mechanism of the small business community of Central Florida, rather than run like a personally owned business.
I don't understand how you could have been president and they won't even return your phone calls.
Well, I've been an advocate against the behavior.
Right.
So,
And they know this?
of course, we've done many shows regarding Emilio Perez and his approach to the community, and I'm not surprised that they don't return my phone calls. You know, I'm not surprised about that. What I am surprised is that the local Puerto Rican community, which I don't think the chamber has support, because it does not have. There are a huge number of Puerto Ricans here locally in Central Florida, hundreds of thousands, and the membership of the Puerto Rican chamber has actually diminished to a point where there is no vocal membership anymore, which means there's no membership. You know, and that means that the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce is not getting the support of the local business community, who are Puerto Ricans, or else they would have thousands of members, and that's not happening. So, I'm really annoyed at the fact that it's being used for political stunts, for personal economic advancement, rather than for the use of the community, and that's what bothers me about this whole thing. And I will continue to speak out about that, or perhaps somebody else wants to start another Puerto Rican chamber. You know, that's a possibility too. Let's go to Tim Adams now. Hi, Nicole. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Danny?
We've had a great week this week, and we're here with Tim Adams again.
Yes,
we
we
got
are.
hundreds of responses on your show last week, which was very hot. Some of the comments were controversial, to say the least, and we did get a lot of response on it. So we decided to bring you back to talk a little bit more about the things that you need to talk about in the campaign here. First, I wanted to thank you for the tie.
Of course.
I came to the show with
Sorry,
no tie.
Dad. Sorry, Dad.
This tie is, by the way, I'm not a conservative Republican, because most people associate this kind of thing to conservative Republicans. I'm an independent, so I'm not affiliated with any Democratic or Republican party or any party. But I like the tie.
Okay.
It
You're
fits the
welcome.
background,
Yes,
you know,
it
it fits the
matches.
background. So we're here with Tim again because we wanted to get a little more information from him on a candid conversation of what's going on in Orange County. So why don't you start off, Nicole?
I wanted to ask you, what kind of services benefit people in my age group, in the 20s?
I perceive your age group to be what you said is the 20s.
In our 20s.
Earlier, I didn't know, and that was an honest not knowing. There are things like bike trails and nature trails and other amenities that some counties have put a lot of emphasis on, and I think that we can do a better job in Orange County as well. And wide open spaces. We don't need to crowd our cities, our urban areas with a lot of buildings with no open space in them. I think those are the kind of things that young people, or people who are younger than I am, will benefit from greatly, because I know I did. I mean, I love the lakes and the parks and the other places that I enjoyed.
That's interesting, because I go jogging a lot, and I don't mean a lot of people do the whole gym thing, but I usually like to go outdoors jogging, so that would benefit me personally.
Right.
I don't know about other people, but me, that would benefit.
Okay.
Right.
You.
Me, I just want to talk about, you know, the politics of Orange County. You know, that's where I'm at. I want to hear about all the stuff that goes on.
Right.
There was the question that we wanted to ask him about.
Yes. There was another controversial thing that happened recently, January 5th. There was a shooting. I wanted to ask you a little bit about that.
The preliminary information that I've been privileged to showed that there were more than 100 rounds shot into a vehicle and into buildings and to windows in a very highly crowded community neighborhood. And I'm certain that the majority of citizens in Orange County would not like to have 100 rounds shot at one person who's not armed and who's simply a thief who got away with stolen cars. His name was known before the shooting. His identity was already known by the 9 officers. And I just think it was excessive force, and it was endangering the lives of others. I just think that that kind of policy needs to be looked at by the entire county, our entire community, and changed.
Absolutely.
So was that car in motion? Do you know more details about
The car being in
occurrence?
motion?
Was the car in motion? Was the car already stopped? Was he in the car?
I was told that they were in an apartment complex at the corner of Hiawassee and Silver Star, which has one way in and one way out, and the way in and way out were barricaded. So without him shooting at an officer first, any movement of that car, they could have simply averted being hit by the car. And I was told that he rammed 3 cars. How do you ram 3 cars and keep moving? If they're police officers, they know how to stop a car. There are car stops. There are bullets that can be fired at the tire instead of the person. There are lots of things. And if the person was on drugs or something else, a death sentence at the hands of 7 police officers is not the penalty for being deranged, or obviously he was doing something that doesn't make sense.
Are they investigating this matter? I mean, this
Yes.
this is OPD or this Orange County?
Orange County Sheriff's.
And-
It's an automatic investigation by Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
So FDLE is involved.
They have to be.
Yeah.
But I think in this case, the United States Department of Justice and the Office of Civil Rights will be involved as well, because there were innocent bystanders who were endangered by 110 or more bullets, 41 of which I was told hit the victim. But the 60 bullets, which was the preponderance of bullets, the majority of the bullets did not go at the person who was the suspect. Those bullets went some of everywhere else, including the building. And right now, people are trying to cover up the places where the bullets hit and the windows that were broken. But with proper investigation, that will be open to a court of law.
Okay. Do you think that the FDLE is independent enough to be able to come to an appropriate conclusion on the case? Are they connected too closely to local law enforcement to be objective?
I think they're too political to be totally objective, and that's why I thank God the United States has a federal and state separation of powers. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement is comprised of appointees of the governor. The governor is running for United States Senate. That's a highly politicized situation right now, and I'm not sure which side he's going to take, but he has been a civil rights advocate, the current governor of our state. So I hope that he stays a civil rights advocate and has a thorough investigation done. And I hope he does the same thing in this case that he did with the Florida Public Service Commission. If the guy doesn't do a good job of investigating, get another guy.
Do you think Orange County is objective enough to look at this case?
I think that's an oxymoron, because the county sheriff's department should not have the responsibility of investigating its own actions, and the sheriff should not be blamed for what happened with 9 deputies who are given the authority by state law to make decisions on the spot. I don't think that Sheriff Demings would have done what his 9 officers did.
Well, you know, if you have 9 officers on a location with more than 1 police car, generally you have a person in charge of the crew.
Right.
So there had to be someone who the buck stops here in that particular incident. Certainly you have an officer that may react, and then you get a chain reaction, which is possible there. One officer reacts, and then all of a sudden everybody thinks they're all in danger, and everybody starts to shoot, which shouldn't happen.
Right, it should not happen. And I think that when I'm told what did happen, and there are ways of telling which gun went off first and which one kept going, past the point of the guy being killed, because I'm certain he was killed before the 10th bullet was fired, then why the other rounds? And that's a waste of manpower, because all 9 will now have to be taken off the streets for a long period of time, and these vacations are expensive.
Is that happening?
That has to happen.
It has to happen.
Right, by law. That's too many officers off the street who are supposed to be trained and seasoned and well-informed and well-actioned people. Now we've got the loss of those officers at our expense, and that
So what do
shouldn't
you
be.
suggest in order for that not to happen?
They should have protocol that doesn't allow 100 bullets to be shot at one suspect that is not armed.
Yeah, but Tim, it did happen.
It did happen.
It did happen.
And
So
it's
now you
happened
got
more
the
than
9
once.
police officers being taken off duty, active duty.
Right.
So what can we do to keep those guys on active duty while the investigation is going on? Or
Maybe
is
we
that,
don't want them on active duty.
well, that's a possibility.
That's why the law exists, and I think that some
But they
protocol.
all can't be responsible for, you know.
Right,
This all
some
seems
protocol.
so unnecessary.
Right.
All
Some
of that.
protocol needs to change, because to take 9 officers off duty because they did something like this, it's a great loss to everybody. And now we got to pay a lawsuit too, because they're going to be victims that had nothing to do with the crime committed that will have to be compensated for damages. And just because someone doesn't get killed or hurt or shot doesn't mean that there aren't some emotional stresses and other dangers that took place. These things will have to be done in a court of law, and it's an unnecessary expenditure of public funds.
Do you think this incident in any way, shape, or form is racially motivated or connected?
It has to be. Why is it that in Pine Hills, Florida, where there's already racial stress and tension, would you have 7 white officers and 2 Hispanic officers and no African American officers in a neighborhood that's 99% African American? That shouldn't be. There's a difference between the way people treat each other. You and I might not be that way, but the majority of people are that way. They tend to favor their own, or people like their own culture. And then there's a communication situation. If I had been there and I had been in charge, the guy would still be alive, and we'd be talking about the fact that we did not spend 100 rounds of bullets and we don't have to take 10 men off the street. We could have apprehended that guy without 9 people shooting at him. That was totally not necessary.
Do you think that this is going to be a racial issue at the federal level?
I think it already is. I think it is because it is what it is, and you can't change that. And when African Americans are gunned down by police officers, it makes everybody unsafe because there's resentment to law enforcement. And I, for one, am a law enforcement type. I support law enforcement. So I don't like seeing us put in a position where we're made to look like we're against a whole culture of people.
Do you think that's a leadership gap?
It's a leadership gap.
Now, I'm not talking about, you said before, okay, you know, you cannot hold the chief of police or the sheriff accountable if he wasn't there.
Right.
It's a matter of policy, department policy, which may or may not have to be changed or has to be looked at.
Right.
But how do you feel about it being a racial issue relative to the police department as a whole?
Because
in Orange County.
Because in Orange County, the police department has always been looked upon as a group of people who protect property over human life. And that happened in this case. Those cars that guy stole are not worth anybody's life, including his own. The guy should not have been on the streets, first of all. You know, we're always talking about all these guys who commit crimes and they're on the street. Well, if those guys commit crimes and are convicted, not just accused, but convicted of crimes, they should serve the time that they're convicted of, and they should be rehabilitated. We don't do a good job of rehabilitation, and we don't do a good job of changing people around.
We have a really bad economic situation going on in the black community and the Hispanic community and the minorities. When you have a recession, a major recession in this country, there's no question it's affecting the middle class.
Right.
Okay, and it's affecting the middle class in a big way. When those companies started to close, a lot of white people lost their jobs.
Right.
But it always drifts down worse to those communities that are economically deprived before the recession. So a recession will hit them even twice, 3 times harder. Right. So right now, you're going to have a disproportionate number of people who are unemployed in Orange County who are black and Hispanic. Those people have to eat.
Right.
And if there aren't mechanisms in position to help them economically, what else can they do? You know, they're going to steal food.
Right. You know, I worked at The Bridge, if anyone knows what The Bridge is.
Can you explain?
The Bridge is a nonprofit organization that is like a private jail. That's where the judges of our county and other counties send people to be rehabilitated and go back to work who've committed crimes. I worked as a corrections officer for the sheriff's department. In both instances, I saw very little and not enough of rehabilitation of the people we're talking about, the people who were at stress, whose kids were hungry, they were hungry themselves, and they did something stupid. Economic crimes are the majority of the crimes committed. And very often, an economic crime is not a crime if there's no intent to make it a crime. There are people who will eat other people's food and do things for other people that they shouldn't be doing, but it's not necessarily a crime. But yet they'll get convicted and they'll get no jobs in most cases. The few companies that will hire people, it's about 20 of them, don't have enough openings to hire these people. So we need to broaden that base. We need to find more companies that will hire these people and keep them working. This guy should not have been
Orange
stealing.
County doing that now or no?
Not enough, not nearly enough. They're not even making it a strong effort or a top priority. And they should be, because they're leaving the rest of us at risk.
Okay. Another question I have for you. Last show, you made a very hard statement.
Right.
Regarding Buddy Dyer's $1 Million house.
In Flagler Beach.
In Flagler Beach. I have to get a
Right.
picture of that house. I want
It's
to put
yellow
it out here.
and it's 2 or 3 stories, and it's beautiful.
Okay.
I don't think
Where-
we're going to be invited there anytime soon.
Me either. My friends who've gone there told me they don't think I'll be joining them.
We probably won't be either.
No, I don't think
I
so.
don't think so.
Where do you think that money came from?
I think it came from
I mean-
people who benefited from city decisions. And
Do you,
Mr. Dyer was a senator for 10 years, and I think his friends helped put that money up for him, but they didn't do it without full transparency, and that's what bothers me.
so how does that happen? In other words, somebody says, okay, I need a favor, I need to get a piece of a contract, you know, and if I get that contract, I'm going to hire somebody that's your relative, or I'm going to make a donation to your campaign. How does that happen?
In this case, it's too close. It appears, to those of us who study politics, it appears that the 2 lawyers who happen to be married to each other get legal work because of their political
Who were
connections.
the 2 lawyers?
Mr. and Mrs. Dyer. And,
So Mrs. Dyer's a lawyer,
Mrs. Dyer is a lawyer.
and Buddy Dyer's a lawyer.
And he's a lawyer.
Okay.
And he's an engineer also. And so a lot of people that follow the construction trades and the businesses that make money off of the city of Orlando and made money because of the decisions made in the Senate when Mr. Dyer was there, help him to amass these fortunes. And they do so in a way that's against the Florida law that says who gave it and who got it. If you benefit, it should be public if you're a public official. And in this case, no mortgage on $1 million house in Flagler Beach needs to be investigated by the rest of us. It's not on his financial disclosure.
Well, why don't you think FDLE doesn't pick up on it? I mean, well, we know Orlando Police Department doesn't play a role in that because
They
it's
can't.
too close.
Yeah, it's too close.
Because he supervises the Orlando Police Department.
He's
They
in charge of them.
They report directly to him. But what about, why do you think FDLE doesn't look into a matter? Is that nobody has brought it up and nobody's talking about it, or?
I brought it up, and I sent FDLE a copy, and the commissioner told me to stop sending them complaints.
Which commissioner?
The commissioner of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. In fact, their local office told me to stop sending stuff to the Tallahassee office. And I only sent it to Tallahassee because when I send it to Orlando, they never reply. At least when I send it to Tallahassee, I get a reply. Sometimes it's an angry reply because they don't want to be studying politicians. They don't want to do that. They don't want to study what Mr. Crotty has done or what Mr. Dyer has done because it's not popular. And Mr. McCullum is from Orlando. He's the Attorney General. And there's a connection between Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the Attorney General.
So are you saying that the Attorney General of the state of Florida doesn't want to look at it either?
There's a guy who swindled $300,000 from Orlando, Broward County, and residents. And the Attorney General told us that we need to go to the CFO office to lodge our complaint. After
That's
we
the
complained to
Chief
the
Financial Office?
Chief Financial Officer. The Constitution says the Attorney General should look into those matters, especially when it's multi-county.
Who stole the $300,000, or who allegedly stole?
Ariel Charles. We can prove it. I mean, we have receipts and everything.
Ariel Charles is who?
He's a guy who said that he had a national investment company. He ripped off all of these people. We sent the complaint to the Attorney General. And the Attorney General, I was shocked when they said, take it to the CFA, the Chief Financial Officer. I mean, they both should investigate, but it's more of the Attorney General's purview and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement's purview than anyone else.
The CFO is not a legal law enforcement arm, is it?
That's not the majority of their work. Their work is to regulate. The majority of their work should be regulation. By statute.
Did you send it to CFO?
I did.
And what was their response?
They haven't responded yet, but I think they will. And because the governor and the chief financial officer are both running for public office now, I think we're going to get more traction on this case than we would have got, because he's doing what Bernie Madoff did. And how can you do what Bernie did in Florida and get away with it? Florida's supposed to be a conservative state where lawbreakers get penalized. I mean, they penalize people who make threats of doing stupid things, so why can't they penalize somebody who's actually done something stupid?
Okay. Do you think that the mayor of Orlando benefited somehow financially from the building of the arena in downtown Orlando?
I believe I can prove it, and I believe that there are enough of us out there who want to prove it to do something
How
about it.
can you prove that? I mean,
By
what's,
looking at his financial donors, and looking at where the money came from for that $1 million house in Flagler. I think we can find out who did it. Somebody who has a contract there had to supply some of that money. I don't believe it fell out of the sky. And I know that he
Well,
doesn't.
maybe they didn't give it to Buddy Dye directly.
They might have given it to his family members. As a matter of fact, that's a strong possibility. So I think that we
Or
as a public
contracted a
needs to know.
family member?
Right. I think that when family members get big bonuses and big $200,000 and $300,000 contracts, and their family members serving in public office, we should know where the money's coming from, who got it, and who gave it. That's what the law says. And I think that law is being skirted in this case.
And whose doorstep would that fall on locally here for the city of Orlando to investigate that?
I
Is
think
that
the
a-
Florida Department of Law Enforcement has to look at it, and I think they should look at it. Why they haven't, I cannot explain, because after all, Mr. Buddy Dyer and I are both Democrats, and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement is set up by governor's appointments. The state's attorney general happens to be a Republican, but he is from Orlando. And a lot of these people have friends in common. Most of us have friends in common.
Well, you know, we said a mouthful here. You know, really, we're talking about things that people in Central Florida usually don't talk about. I've heard it over lunch,
Most people are afraid to talk about it.
and I've heard it over lunch several times, not one time, not two times, not three times, but more than 4, 5, 6 times from different people of some of the things that go on. But again, you never hear it on the news, you never hear it anywhere. And I'm just kind of thinking of why you think that we live in a society that's in a fishbowl legally. I mean, when you look at the things that go on here in Central Florida, there is something, to quote you, there's something wrong with Orlando when these things can go on without accountability.
Right, and I think part of that is because it's an area where tourist trades are the dominant factor in making decisions in this community. And some of these people do not want it to be known that someone got shot 110 times because they were in a stolen car and didn't have a gun.
And unarmed.
Right, and I don't think that the world is too interested in knowing that our mayor has $1 million house with no mortgage in another county when in fact he kept some of us from going on the ballot because he said we had a house outside of the city of Orlando. And by the way, he didn't live in the house that he ran from the last time. But these things are looked upon by law enforcement types as, if I like you, I'll leave it alone. If I don't like you, I'll pounce on you. So I've been pounced on quite a few times.
Well, I
and
would
I'm
say
lucky
that,
to be
yeah.
alive. But
Yeah.
I just don't feel that being silent about these very important issues is the right way to go. I think being outspoken about them is more important than brushing them under the rug. And I don't think it'll hurt my chances of winning an election because a lot of people in this county want the truth to come out.
Well, listen, we ran out of time on this, but you know, we want you to come back again in the future. I want to thank you for coming back.
Thank you
and
for
for
having me.
being so candid about what's going on in Orange County. Thank you, Tim.
Absolutely.
Thank you.